All right, folks, welcome back to part 2 of the images submitted from the October 6th group. I'm Toby.
And I am Christina.
And we're continuing on with just a few images. Remember this new format, we're trying to keep it tighter, shorter, more targeted with information to help you, even if you weren't a person that has a picture being critiqued, walk away and be able to make stronger images. And so we're going to dive right into it right now with these Colorado aspens.
So this image is pretty, I don't know, I wanted to say breathtaking, but I don't know if breathtaking is the right word. Just really beautiful. These trees are amazing, and there's so many of them just collected in one place. I mean, it's got to be a sight to see if you're there. So that being said, I love this image because of the repetition of patterns and color. However, there are a few minor tweaks that I would make. For starters, I might close this. I might straighten this, and you can see the curve here even out a little bit. And then this, the horizon, which is actually really hard to notice, seems a lot straighter. And all of the trees seem to be converging to the same point. And I think that's just, we mentioned this in part 1, and I just think it's huge to really be conscious about where your horizon is, making sure that it's straight, and if you don't get it straight in camera, straighten it after camera. The other thing that kind of strikes me about this image, or kind of could be improved, is where this starts, where the bottom, the foreground starts. I might do something like this and just cut it and see what that looks like. And it looks a lot cleaner. Or, if you have the opportunity to go back there and retake this photo, I might, just get down a little bit lower and try to include more of the little shrubs and leaves and branches that are, here. But, you may not be able to do that. So I think the easiest thing would be to do that, and now you have a very, very clean image.
So why would you feel like you should include more when you're saying one of the things here to cut out? Is it because it's in this halfway point between the two?
Yeah, because it's even. Because that would make it even, and it would make it more symmetrical. And to me, that would make it stronger.
Okay.
There's a lack of symmetry here because there's shrubs, and you don't see the beginning of the trunk, or the trunk the way that you see it here. So it doesn't feel symmetrical to me, which again is not a huge deal, but I just think it would be that much stronger if they all started in the same place, and because there's so many repetitive lines and the color is repetitive, I think that a really symmetrical image would make the composition stronger.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's lovely. For all the reasons that Christina said, of the repetition of the pattern and the colors. I think the exposure is very nice here as well. You've done a nice job, or the camera did a nice job, and we can really see through deep in there. It doesn't get too dark, but in the foreground, it's not too bright. I'm torn about how I feel about this carving. I mean, here we are in this very natural place. It feels very wild, and then it's clear that humans have been here already. And so in some respects, I kind of like that reminder that humans are always messing up every pretty scene everywhere. But on the other hand, I may have tried stepping forward and taking a few photos without this tree in it, and see what you ended up with.
But there's a tree right here with that too.
Right.
Right here, so.
Yeah. Is that one carved too?
It looks like it.
Yep. ASTSMS. So that's tricky. You could also clone stamp it out if you wanted to spend that much time doing that. I think this would also be a fun spot to turn and find, I mean, these some type of, oh, we said aspens, aren't they? Where isn't it called?
Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado aspens. To find some spot where they're really close together and shoot straight up for that shot where
Yeah.
the trees are all kind of above, converging out from your lens practically up to the colors above you, and the colors are really nice up there. So good. Thank you. We got a self-portrait from Todd. And I feel like we've critiqued very few pictures of the style. So
Yeah.
I was glad to see you picked it.
Yeah, so I don't think we've really ever done any self-portraits. We definitely don't do that many of them. So I think self-portraits are really challenging to do. To me, they are. They have been always.
For many reasons.
For many reasons, yes. So I've tried to do the 365-day project where you take a self-portrait of yourself. And because of laziness, because I don't really love looking at myself, because of whatever reason I have that day or excuse I have that day, it just didn't work out. But in general, it's hard to nail the focus on your camera, on yourself, when you're taking a self-portrait and have it be this crisp. And then to also capture so much emotion and so much of the personality and so much of a connection. I feel like you have a really strong connection with yourself, the audience does. And I think it's because of the eyes. And I don't know. I like the processing also. I like that it's very contrasty and very gritty. I think that's kind of how you want to be perceived. And it was well done. I will give one piece of feedback. Whenever you are photographing a subject against a very dark background, you probably want to add a little reflector to kind of highlight the edge so that your head doesn't fall back into the background. Just kind of give it a little bit more dimension, separation. It's just nice. It's not a huge deal, but it's nice to do. I think it could really take this image to the next level.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with the grittiness and the fact that each individual hair of your beard is highlighted very nicely done. But one of the things that you helped you out here was you shot at f8, so you got yourself a good amount of focus. I'm curious what the light source was.
Oh, it looks like an umbrella.
Yep, looks like an umbrella, so that's good. I think this side of your face, your left part of your face, really nicely done. Over on the right in some of these shadows, we've lost a lot of detail. Enough that it's distracting me some. We've got just kind of gray, washed out tones, and it doesn't look very healthy. Whereas over here, healthy, good, strong. So, and Christina, what can you do to avoid that? Would a little bit of reflector that would cast light to separate you also throw in just a little bit more light to avoid that shadow?
Yeah, you could do a reflector. You could also get, if this is going to be a black and white anyway, you could just do a lot more ambient light to get a lot more detail. So, you could increase your ISO and kind of tone down the power, the output of the flash, so that the photo is a lot more balanced, and then you have more dynamic range, and you don't. The other thing that I think was done, and it was done on purpose, is the contrast was just dialed up a ton, and that gets rid of a lot of the shadows. So I think it was done intentionally. But yeah, I mean, it starts to get to the point where this is pure black, and like from certain angles it just looks like all the image has been lost, and you can see here in the histogram that some of it has been lost, some information has been lost. So yeah, so I would just be a little bit careful and not, and bring back some of those shadows.
Yeah. Well, and we have information back here lost probably. That's a lot of what's showing up on the histogram, which is fine.
No, I mean, I disagree. I think that what's clipped is this right here and this right here. It's all the pure blacks.
Okay. Nice. Thank you, Todd. Thank you for letting us stare at your face for a few minutes. We got another portrait. Probably not self. Doesn't say that. We don't know anything about it.
So this person submitted, I'm going to say that it isn't. It's not a self-portrait.
Okay.
But this person submitted 2 images, and we chose this one because I felt the connection was stronger in this image, and I love the pose and body language more on this one than on the other one. A few things. Be really aware of your background when you're photographing subjects. You could have moved her a little bit to this side and you turned a little bit to this side. You would have had a little bit better light. It looks like the light is coming from here but slightly like sideways. So you would have had a little bit more flattering light if you had turned her, and then you would have had a cleaner background. Looks like your aperture is pretty wide though, so your background is pretty soft, but these colors are very strong, so it looks like she's got something coming out of her head, and this stuff is pretty distracting.
Right.
Secondly, try not to crop things, so have her, bring her hand up a little bit, bring this hand closer, and just be a little bit more careful.
Or shoot just a little wider.
Or shoot just a little wider to give yourself a little bit more room to crop.
Either focal length or better, stepping back a few feet.
Yeah. Positives, again, body language, connection. I like the crop of the image. And the last piece of feedback that I would give is just it's a little pink. So look back at the other image that you submitted, which is, so
let's show people that.
So this is really pink. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my RGB and I'm going to measure a part of the face that's in that is a mid-tone. And ideally I should have, an equal, I should have a 10-point difference between the red, the green, and the blue. So
if the red was 80, the green should be 70, and the blue should be 60.
Right.
And we're close to that here.
We're very close to it, yes. So it could also just be the monitor. But to me, it still looks a little pink. So I'm going to add just a little bit of green. This change is very subtle. And I'm going to add a little yellow. And a little bit more green. And I think that makes a pretty significant difference. So we can go back to the import. And it looks a little bit more natural this way, I think. Don't you think?
Yep.
We can again go back and try to take a measurement. So it's about, still pretty much the same. It's like an 11-point difference between all of them. So we could go back and continue to add a little bit more green and try to fix it more. But it's a JPEG, so it's a little bit challenging to get.
It's a JPEG with a very low resolution to begin with.
Right. So we don't have a ton of data to work with. But yeah, that's all the feedback that I have.
Well, you moved it a little bit more. Let's check and see just if we're a little bit closer there. About the same. Very similar. But you can see how small differences can make a big difference. Now, you said you're going to mention bringing in the other one. Let's bring in the other image real quick just to show it. So this was the other image, and you said that you liked the posing and the framing on the one that we've just spent time critiquing.
Yes.
Yeah, stronger. There's good connection here too. Now, the light is a little bit more even in this one.
It is.
Especially on her face.
Yeah. It looks like you used, actually, before you move on, it looks like with both photos you used a fill flash, which is, I think, a great thing to do. Oftentimes when you point flash straight at a person, it can really wash out the image, but in situations like this, when you're backlit and you're going to have unflattering shadows on the face because the light that you have isn't very even, bouncing or flashing a little bit of light straight into the face can help balance out those shadows.
All right, thank you. And now we've got some sheep silhouetted against the sunset.
I love this. I love silhouettes. I think they're really cool. And I think this is, a kind of a different take on a sunset picture. You're not just photographing the sunset, but you're photographing things that happen at sunset, which is that, these goats are headed somewhere, maybe to sleep or whatever. Maybe they're just hanging out. They've just been there all day. Um, but I like, the story that it tells. Um, that's really what speaks to me about this image.
Yeah. I think it's really nice. I agree. The silhouettes, they're really strong here, really clear. That's great. There's a little, there's no separation between two pairs of the sheep, and I would like to see just a little bit of separation, but it's okay because we've got the clue that these are a bunch of sheep because we've got one clear silhouette. And then even on their own, you'd have to be a pretty big dummy not to realize these were two animals. So what I'm saying is the silhouettes aren't touching each other in a way that makes you think, what is that? Other critique is we've got, because of perspective here, we've got these little mini sheep in the background, little miniature ones. And I think that they don't add anything to the image. You would be better off really saying, here's my image, these guys in this bush. I think that all works. And you could get that if you came just a little bit lower. You would still have all of those guys, and you would be hiding these guys behind the edge of the hill a little bit more. That's what I would try. You could also try clone stamping them out. So we can actually use the tools in Lightroom to do that. So I'm going to come over here, grab this little tool here, which can be a clone or a heal tool. In this case, I think clone would be better. And I'm just going to do one as an example. Come down here, get a size that's just big enough. You don't want to do too big because then you're just going to repeat too much of an area. I'm going to click, and then it automatically samples from an area nearby. And you can see that it does a pretty darn good job. You can maneuver it just a little bit, and there it's gone. Now, you are going to see that, well, there looks like there's some repeating there and a little bit of blips there, but nobody else is going to notice that. This guy up here might be a little bit more difficult, but if you sample from some of the bush and hide it, and same thing down here as well, hide it, and then I think this is a stronger picture. Leave your opinion down below if you think something like that is too much post or photoshopping. But I did want to show you that that tool is available there, and I think it makes a stronger picture.
Again, if these are photos that you're taking as a hobby, there's nobody that should say what you can or cannot take out.
Well, it's true, but I'm curious to
you're
hear people's opinions and start conversations.
all right. Well, I mean, I just think that, unless you're submitting to photojournalistic, to a newspaper, to a news entity, you should not worry about photoshopping anything.
Okay, great. This is actually Roger, too. I just realized that. Thank you, Roger. And now we're going to finish up this week's critique with another storefront window reflection. I just realized that that's what we finished last week's with as well. This one's from Cheryl. Christina, you want to talk?
Sure. This image is, I love the reflection because it gives you an idea of where you are. I mean, I think that the front of the store is interesting enough to photograph, but it's nice to be able to see what's across the street. You can also see that there are people inside, which gives you an element of, I can't remember what the actual term is, but it's like it brings the photo alive in a way, because there's people, because this isn't just a display. I mean, people actually interact with this, so it brings a little bit of an element of interaction, human element to the photo. I will say that I don't think that the reflection should be as sharp as it is. So maybe try playing with your aperture next time and see if you can blur the reflection just a little bit because remember, you're seeing still that building that's across the street. Your camera can't really tell that or can tell somewhat that it's far away because it's a reflection. So if that makes any sense, I feel like that didn't really make that much sense. But try to play with your aperture and see if you can soften it a little bit so that the the sign, the name of the store is a little bit more legible and clearer. But otherwise, really nice composition, and nicely done.
Yeah, I like this image a lot. I think it's really interesting, the sense of place that you can get from here. We've got Manhattan. We've got these books with New York written on them, and Times Square, and there's a purse or handbag here with New York written on it. So all of this, and then this, you know, street scene of here's the building, and then in the background is clearly more buildings, or behind the person, not actually the background, and the fire escape. So it really gives you a sense of the city. A little distracting to have this. Oh, and I actually just wanted to say that the green, I think, that sticks in up here really is nice. It kind of helps to frame this upper level, and the darkness leads down to the light down here. So that's all good. But I think that this little bit of extra brick sneaking in over here on the side is bothering me a little bit. So I would just bring that in just a little bit. And I also not sure if you need to have the brick above the window as well. But it looks, you know, it was shot kind of at an angle, so we can't quite make it perfect.
Well, no, we can.
Oh, Christina says we can. What I'm saying is we're not going to get all of those to line up right. Are you going to go down to the...
So let's just do this real quick. And already it seems a little bit straighter, and then
It does.
horizontal, and just very slightly. And then we say constraint crop, then we won't have the lines, and let's go back to our crop. Yeah. And it's a lot cleaner.
It is. Nicely done. Great. And that's it for this week. Short and sweet. Actually, I have no idea how long it actually was. Thanks everybody for watching. There will be a new way to submit for images next week right down below this video. Take a look. There won't be an image critique next week because we will still be traveling in Italy.
Well, not a new way, but a new opportunity, right?
A new opportunity. Yep, sorry. The link for the submission. And I think we're going to go ahead and do this. The ones that are submitted in the next group, as long as they follow criteria, you've got a name, they're at least 1080 minimum size, and their appropriate images, we will work through that group until they're all critiqued. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.